Assalamu alaikum, Imam. In this series, I'll be explaining the 4 lams, okay? Language, lens, leverage, localization. The language we use in therapy, I call this dynamic bilingualism. You know, when you're speaking in English and Arabic at the same time, especially somebody who speaks Arabic and English, it goes far beyond just one language. This dynamic bilingualism also applies to explaining something from an Islamic perspective and a secular psychological perspective, and we're saying the exact same thing, right? For example, when it comes to thought stopping, right? This is a technique that's often used in therapy when somebody's just constantly ruminating. Or, for example, somebody's on his way home and he's arguing with his wife in his mind. And the intervention is to, well, stop arguing. Sometimes I'll say things like, well, who are you arguing with? And this is waswasa. So we can explain waswasa and intrusive thoughts, and the intervention will apply to both. So I'll often encourage, well, when that starts, make dua for them. Allah sends the angel. When the angel shows up, the shayateen disappear. Now, that from a psychological perspective could be called a culturally adapted thought-stopping technique, or isti'adha, for example. But the whole idea is that's a technique. When you build on that, it becomes a strategy. Because the idea here is if every time a man, for example, makes dua for his wife when he's arguing with her, that constant arguing inside their mind reduces. So when he shows up to the house and says, Salaam alaikum, what's he really doing that's hidden? He's kicking away the shayateen. From a psychological perspective, we can explain that as a very healthy way of dealing with a specific problem. So I'll be sharing many of these things with you, but I want to provide you with these guiding principles and themes so that you can build on these as well. Language, lens we've already spoken about, leverage. Leverage is a whole other topic that we'll discuss in another session. And then there's localization. Localization isn't just about culturally adapting. Localization is about specifically that individual in that specific circumstance, those specific conditions. This is where it starts to get a little more complicated, but inshallah, throughout the series, it won't be as complicated. Jazakallah khair, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.